Denver Broncos Mile High View. No commercials, no bullshit. This is a wrap-up of the NFL Draft. We are in what I call the Pro Bowl selections, and I call it that because a lot of Pro Bowlers are 4th and 5th rounders, a lot of them, a bulk of them. So I call it the Pro Bowl round. Okay, so getting back, just want to recap on the last two, and especially the lock, greedy situation. So I had somebody post that you know, they weren't all disappointed in or they were fine with the Drew Lock pick. And you know, Kareem Jackson was brought in, but they're two diametrically different, Kareem Jackson and Greedy, two diametric different types of cornerbacks. So I take it that I should have calculated that the Kareem Jackson hire negated the Greedy Williams. I still am not happy with that. I will take Greedy Williams over Lock any day, even with Kareem Jackson on the team, because Kareem Jackson and Greedy are they're polar opposites. And you have Jackson, who's your prototypical, I dare you to cross in the middle of the field because I'm going to take your head off kind of corner. But he is not a shutdown corner, not even to be mistaken for that. He is not a shutdown corner. Greedy Williams is your prototypical shutdown corner. But Greedy Williams isn't the guy that's going to take your head off in a play. Why not have both? That's just me. When you can. Instead of, drafting a guy that may or may not even be on the team, you know, or who knows if Scangarella is even going to be with the team by the time Drew Lock. So anyway, I just wanted to put out that. Also that I probably have been more critical on Drew Lock than I really should be. I did note that, make a note that his pass completion percentage also had to deal with the fact that he had receivers that were a bit dropsy-doodle oriented. They seem to drop a lot of passes too, so maybe you could put him at 60%, around 59, 60% with his drops. But I will say this also is that he does seem to struggle with the play action, with running and throwing, what I can tell. It just, you know, that's where he seems to be off a lot more. And I had also mentioned in the comment that I actually thought that he would be a good fit for New England, barring if Belichick is going to be around to tutelage him and the little turd that we all love to hate, Josh McDaniels. If they're going to be around, I think that would be a place where Locke would be the best fit for him, because I think with the tutelage, he could get his mechanics down, and they wouldn't have him be a play action. He would just strictly be a pocket quarterback, and if you put that stellar offensive line in front of him, you know, I can't see why he can't just pick up where Brady left off, basically throwing passes directly in front of him, you know, because nobody seems to want to even make an effort to defend that, you know, and nothing changes in New England as long as they keep that offensive line healthy. So, but Drew Lock as a play action, excuse me, but I'm highly skeptical. Not that he's a and don't get me wrong, you know, I don't think Drew Lock is a bum, and I do call him Paxton 2.0. That's probably being a little bit too cruel to him, and maybe I shouldn't do that. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. But the reason I came up with that was just from the fact that in the Alabama game, he just got worse and worse and worse, and he does tend to, when the pressure's on, melt down, and that's the Paxton Lynch reference. So just to let you know. So anyway, we're talking about the wrap up here. The Mr. Irrelevant, which they got, was their receiver. They traded 2 draft picks away for that guy, so he better be special. And here's the thing too, You know, nobody thought about Edelman or Rod Smith and these kind of guys. And I keep saying this, if you can find a receiver with good hands and fights for routes, I'll take that 6th-round guy out of Colorado if that's who he is. If he gives you the Edelman, the Eddie McCaffrey, you know, fighting for the routes, and he's got the hands, I'll take it over any of the first 5 rounds of wide receivers who lazily run routes and just essentially become jogging partners for cornerbacks. You know, and I see too much of that in Denver. And if Joe Flacco is going to have any success, you know, these receivers have got to step it up. You know, I blame the quarterback, some of the quarterback woes on the fact these receivers weren't doing the Edelman, weren't going the extra mile, weren't fighting for the routes, you know, trying to get out of, you know, get the guy off of him and try to, you know, pick up those extra couple yards. Just was a lot of lazy route running out there. If that continues, you know, then nobody, I don't care who the fuck the quarterback is, it's not going to help. Okay? So yeah, that needs to be picked up. And if this guy can, you know, be the Lindsey Williams of receivers and actually fight for the routes and be the Edelman that, you know, that he's just, you know, it's hard to, you know, stick with him, but he has sure hands and the chains get moved. That's all I care about. Move the fucking chains. You know, none of this 3-and-out shit, you know. So at any rate, and of course the offensive line, which, you know, it looks like they at least got somebody in the middle there. And I was really critical about that, and I think they got a good one. This guy should be a keeper. And I addressed that. So now, for I believe it's the 6th pick overall, and I was absolutely surprised the guy was there from Oregon State, and that guy is Justin Hollins. Justin Hollins is a decent linebacker, but you know he's an edge guy. I would have liked to saw something more in the middle, but apparently that doesn't really do it. But Justin Hollins was around. I think he's a bit underrated. I think he's higher than some of the guys. I rate him higher than some of the guys that went ahead of him. I was really surprised that, you know, the guy was around. And it was a good pickup. You know, he's the kind of guy that could be a Hall of Famer, you know, who knows, under the head coach, you know, making the tweaks and the adjustments just right. This guy could end up being a, you know, a 2nd, 3rd round, you know, type of linebacker that goes to a Pro Bowl or 2. You know, he's that kind of guy. So anyway, overall, I think a decent draft. I would have really would have liked to have Greedy Williams. Because I guess I'm greedy, and you know I want as many cornerbacks that are, you know, you can't get enough of them really. You know, have a stable of cornerbacks, and because if you look at the history of the NFL last 10 years, it's so hard to get really good cornerbacks unless you know in free agency or whatever. But it's so hard to do it in the draft, and to get Greedy a true shutdown corner and have Jackson as a true, you know, bruiser would have been a good, you know, you could have switched him out and stuff. It just would have been great. A great combo, you know. But of course, you know, and of course, Greedy Williams, you wouldn't have to pay him all that much right off the bat. And if Harris Jr. decides that he's got to retire or move on later on, you know, obviously by not picking up Grady, you're definitely, or Greedy. That only helps Chris Harris Jr., who I want to see around too. I'd like to see him retire a Bronco. Be wonderful. So anyway, that's the wrap up. You know, I guess we just have to wait till preseason and to get a better gauge on what's going on. But of course, that doesn't give you much either. So it just, you know, let the season begin. Although I'm ready, you know, for a nice, slow, easy summer. I don't need fall to all of a sudden to show up. So, at any rate, I'm very happy. It's not a bad draft class. I mean, it's not bad. So we'll see.